Welcome back to DAGryffyn Hobby. My name's Dave. In this video, I've got a project to work on, and that would be trying to get both of my 2243A units to work in unison. The 2243, for being a single motor engine, is actually a pretty good puller as it is. So having two powered units working in unison, kind of spread out with a B unit between them, I think it should be quite the monster.
Okay, this is a project I started once before, but didn't really get anywhere with. I have this set of 2243s, which are the single motor units, powered, dummy, powered. And I want to be able to run two powered units together. Now, I was initially going to do it like I did my Erie Alcos and make it so that I could run each one individually or together. But really, I don't foresee myself doing that. I'm either going to run an ABA or an AB. The E unit in this engine is a mess. When I initially opened this up and took a look at it, it was all loose and damaged. But I tried to put it back together and get it to work, and it worked a little. But then it will be running, and then all of a sudden it will just stop. It won't go anywhere else. Oh, I put an LED in this one. Look at that. I was wondering why that was so light. So there are a couple of things I need to do. Directional lighting, and to make it all work off of the one E unit in this engine. Oh, well, you look at that. Well, I think I found the issue with this E unit. So maybe I should put the plans on hold and see if I can fix it. That wire right there came apart. You know what? I'm not going to fix it. I'm going to take this E unit out and go back to the plan like I just stated a moment ago. And I'll fix this E unit and use it for something else, because I do have a couple of steamers that need new E units. So between this and other E units I've got, I should be able to make at least one good one. This is actually a really good point as far as checking an older engine for what might be causing an issue. The E unit is clean, it's moving freely, the lever works, everything seems good, but then that wire came off. And you really can't see, but this wire is held on by like one strand. So even if it is working, it's not going to work well. What I have found many times is that the wire, even if it looks good through most of it, right here where it connects to this board with the fingers is a lot of times damaged or corroded. So this is an important spot to look at, especially if you're having any weird power issues. This is fun because I haven't been in this engine in a long time. I completely forgot that I still had the horn in it. I mean, it's obviously damaged, but I mean, most of the time I take the horns out because I don't use them anyway. I just find it funny that I still have this in here. All right, I was thinking I was going to remove the horn, but if I touch this to power, it works. So I just have to figure out why I'm not getting power out of the relay, because the relay activates. I just haven't serviced it because I don't think I ever planned on using it, but I might as well. So I'll have to add that to part 2, because at the moment I want to work on getting the two units to work together. Now, there are a couple of questions. Do I retain the power pickup from the second A unit? I don't really need it in this engine, but it would be nice, probably have smoother operation, to have further spaced pickups on this engine. Might work better. So, but that would mean I have to run a wire from the 1A unit all the way through to the other, which is fine because I already have to run 3 wires from the front to the back. So if I have to run 1 wire from the back to the front, that's really not a problem. I'm just not sure how I want to do it. So I'm gonna have to sit here and fiddle and think for a minute and see what I come up with. One of the first problems that I'm facing is where to run the wires. In the A units, there are holes in the back of the frame. I can run the wire right out there, and it shouldn't get in the way. Shouldn't get in the way. I was thinking I would have to leave extra through the B unit so that I could connect the wires and shove the connector up inside. That way it doesn't get in the way of the couplers. If I was just doing these two A units, that's what I would do. I'd just run it right through there. But this is the base of the B unit. There's no holes in it. It's got a metal plate through it. It's got a plastic base with a metal plate. There are no holes. So I think since they have this hole in the metal plate here and here, I'm going to run the wires through there. I'll just drill through the plastic and then run the wire underneath, then up and through. Because there's no way to go from front to back of this unit without drilling a hole somewhere. And the only other option really would be to feed it through the windows. And I don't want to do that. I mean, I really could, but I don't want to. I don't have a connector small enough to fit through the window, so then I'd either be stuck with permanently wired together or a big connector in between the two of them, and that's going to look horrible. Even if I decide later that it was a bad idea to drill through here, nobody's ever going to see it. I'm okay with that. Some of you might not think that's a good idea. I'm not sure I think it's a good idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, I have a good part of the first part of the project underway. I wired a yellow wire, a blue wire, a green wire to the motor to match the colors that were on the E unit. And then I ran a red wire to the power point on the E unit. So I soldered these 4 wires in. I put a little shrink tube around them, pinned it here with the clip on the E unit, put some shrink tube here where it's running next to the motor, and then another piece of shrink tube here where it passes through the frame. Now, I really don't want to see a bunch of colorful wires in between the engines, but I'll worry about that later, whether I put a little shrink tube on it or I just paint them black or something. Really doesn't matter. I just need to be able to see what the colors are inside the engine. So the wires need to come up and into the B unit. I have a couple of options, and this is going to pertain to solely how I run this engine. This is not one I would ever consider really getting rid of. This 2243 is an engine I credit with really drawing my attention back to O-scale. I found it at a swap meet, an automotive swap meet. I was looking for car parts, and I see a Lionel sitting on the table. I'm like, whoa, that looks like it's O-scale. So it really grabbed my attention that day. I still remember when I saw it on the table, and it really got me thinking more about getting back into O-gauge. So I'm not getting rid of this thing. It's not a showpiece anyway. It's not in great condition, and it's not super collectible. So I'm okay with doing a little bit of crazy stuff with it. The point is, I will always run this as an AB, if not an ABA. I'm not too concerned with the ease of disconnecting these two. What I'm thinking is I will use these small connectors. They just happen to be what I have on hand, and they're 2-pin connectors. So I'll use 2 of them, and I'll use different ends so I won't mix up the connectors. If they were both the same end, I wouldn't know which one was which. But I'll use opposite ends, so that way when I plug the other ends into, it will be obvious which ones they are. So I'm thinking I will put these connectors in the B unit. If I needed to, I could feed them out through this hole that I drilled. And maybe I just kind of answered my own question as I was thinking about it. Do I put connectors right here so that I could disconnect to the B unit, pull the connectors out of the bottom of the B unit, and then in the bottom of the A unit if I wanted to run an AA? Am I overthinking this? I might be overthinking this. I know, shocking. You know, I can always cut the wire and add connectors later. And these wires are not long enough to reach to the other A unit, so there needs to be a connector somewhere in this vicinity. So I'm going to get back to fiddling with that and see what I come up with. I'm still working on the A unit. I wired in 2 wires from the green and the yellow towards the front for a directional headlight. But I added in, I know, look at this, a little bit of electronics. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Well, all that really does is it provides DC to this LED, but also has a capacitor, so if there's any irregularities in the power supply, it shouldn't flicker or dim or anything like that. So it might be unnecessary, but I had bought these based on, I don't know, somebody had shared a project that they had done. Maybe it was passenger car lights. But I wanted to see how it worked and if it worked and all that. So that's what I've done. I have the regular light bulb that lights up the cab and the number boards, and then I have the LED for the headlight. Yes, I should remove this, and I probably will. So for the LED headlight, I'm just gonna hot glue it. Put down some high temp hot glue, and then I'm just laying the LED in it. And then I'll cover that with electrical tape so the headlight won't light up with the incandescent, or if I replace it with an LED. What I like about the hot glue and the electrical tape is none of that's permanent. It shouldn't leave a lasting mark on anything. I'm just going to run boards to the side through another dab of hot glue, just so they're not as visible, hopefully, through the windshield. So cab light, LED for the headlight, a little bit of electronics for better light performance. I have 4 wires connected to the motor and the E unit. Then I power the other LED headlight off of this motor, so I don't need any additional wires. You know, I didn't think of that. Is the clip at the back going to be a problem for my wire harness? Maybe, maybe not. I need to make sure it lays flat, because right now it's sticking down, and that will definitely get in the way. So it needs to sit like that against the body. Just for now, don't yell at me. A little hot glue. So this, if it stays here, it really shouldn't be in the way. Besides, I'm not running this on any crazy tight turns anyway. This will be at least on 42, so it's got plenty of room to move. Now that it's back together, I might as well go see if it actually works.
So while some things were successful, others were not. For some reason, the headlight is lighting up in both directions. So obviously, I did something wrong. I thought I checked it. Maybe it's the electronics and how they work and how it affects the way the electricity flows. I'll have to poke around in there and find out. But the LED is nice and bright, but I don't want it on when it goes backwards. So maybe I'll just remove the electronics and keep them for something else, which is fine. I don't really need them in there. I just want the headlight to be directional. But also now my microphone's not working, so I think it might be time to call it quits for tonight.
So essentially, my wiring is correct. It's the introduction of the electronics, as expected, that would mess things up. Analog is always better. No, for this situation though, it needs to be done without the electronics. When the light is just hooked to the motor, it functions the way I want it to. When I introduce the electronics to it, then it functions all the time. We'll have to remove the electronics and go back to old school. I guess all I have to do then is splice the connector back on so that I can connect the LED. But while I was in here, I figured I'd replace the bulb with an LED. So I ran the wire that was running to the light to the LED, and then, well, that would be this one. And I grounded the black wire to a ground point over here that's used by the relay for the horn. Okay, ready to be tried on the layout. All right, I ran around the layout a couple times, and it's working almost the way I want it to. The light's working great forward. It works just as how I expect it to. When it's in neutral, it flashes for a second and turns off. When you put it in forward, it lights and it stays lit and it looks nice and bright. When it's going reverse, it's intermittently flickering, which is not, I mean, I haven't done this on a lot of engines. Maybe it was just the two switchers that I did directional lighting on, and I've not noticed it on either of those, but this, it flickers going in reverse. I'm interested to see what happens to the light on the other A unit, if it's something to do with just the way this particular motor works. But really, mechanically, it's really not any different than the engines I've done it on. So unless it's due to my wiring inside, which is possible because my soldering is not the best in there. But for the time being, I'd say it's good enough for me to continue with the project and troubleshoot it as I go. I've extended the wires through most of the length of the B unit, and I've ended it with two different connectors. Well, same connector, other ends. No, they don't go like that. That would cause some issues, I would assume. I had hot glued, I hate hot glue, I really do. I hate seeing people use it, but you know what? It's just so easy. Anyway, I had hot glued that there. I slipped a couple of loose pieces of shrink tube over the wires so that it would more or less camouflage them. I had done two different sizes, the small one in the middle and the two ones on each end, but of course they moved. Whatever, it really doesn't matter at the moment. That's not the biggest concern. I ran the wires through and I attached these connectors. So now I need to finish the wires on the other side for the other A unit. I attached the wire from the center rail pickup to the wire for the light, which I'm just going to leave as is for the moment. I attached the green wire to the center post of this motor. It's attached to the center post on the other motor. Then in order to get this engine to go forward and this one to go backwards, I have to keep the wires for the two brushes on the same side. And oh my goodness, those brushes are totally worn. I need new ones. I just saw that. Wow. Anyway, if you want these motors to go the same direction, or opposite directions, but move the train in the same direction, you keep the wires on the same side. So blue, blue, yellow, yellow. And yeah, I tested that because I wanted to make sure. I had done that before when I was wiring something. Maybe it was the Erie units. And I was like, okay, I wired it properly. And I put it on the rails and the two engines are pulling. They're playing tug of war. I was like, that's not what I wanted. I'll wire the blue one here, the yellow one here, and then we'll get to the layout for a test run. I've got the engines connected. Obviously, it's a little messy. I don't have the tops on. The wires are sticking everywhere. But this is a test run. These connectors will feed up through the hole in the back of the B unit and then connect inside. And really, it's good for testing purposes, but realistically, this would be a major pain to get on the track and off the track, because I would have to remove the shell and remove the truck to feed the wires out to disconnect this engine. So obviously I'm going to have to come up with a new plan. I may just have to put a couple of connectors down here or do it in such a way that I can feed them up into the A unit and get them out of the way. Something will need to be done. But first we need to show that it works. So let's find out. Well, they're both in neutral. That's a good sign. Okay, works. It didn't bind on this turn. These wires are sticking up everywhere, so I'm just going to put the top on this. I think the rest will be okay. I hope.
It is slowing down a little bit around the turn, but I think that's because my track's dirty. It works pretty well. I wish I could get a better slow speed test, but as I said, the tracks are a little dirty. But either way, it's doing what I want it to do. Now I have to fine tune it and get the directional light set up for the rear A unit. And maybe try to figure out why I'm getting that flickering. But I'm not too concerned about that. I'm more concerned about it working most of the time. That's the nice thing about fiddling with old trains, is that I really don't care if it works 100% of the time. If it works most of the time, that's good enough for me. Now the question might be, why do this in the first place? Why run two 2243s to only have two motors when you could run one 2343 that already has two motors? Well, because the first 2243 was kind of special to me. I picked up the second one for like 50 bucks. So altogether, this setup, this ABA, cost me maybe 160, 170 tops and some fiddling. And, you know, people don't like the black trucks, and I understand that. Comparing it side by side to a 2343, the silver trucks look better. But with the post-war 2500 series cars, those all have black trucks. So I feel like it makes a better set that way. But that could just be me justifying it. I don't know. Either way, I've got this working, so now it's just time to fine-tune.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on DAGryffyn Hobby.